Welcome to Minot Talk this Thursday morning.
This is weird. We didn't have the intro today. We're trying something new.
Yeah, we're trying something new. So some people don't like the intro.
That's fair.
They say the countdown's too long. The minute countdown's too long.
Remember?
So today's for them.
Remember like way back in the day?
When it was a 10-minute countdown?
Yeah.
That was bad.
It was way too much.
That was too long. Yes. The people that complained about that had every right to complain about that.
That's fair.
Yep. We're joined by a special guest today. Minot Park Board member, Justin Hammer. Good to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
It's going to be fun. We got some fun conversation coming up. We haven't had a park board member on the show yet, so this is fun.
Hopefully I don't let you guys down.
Oh, yeah. you won't. It's going to be a good conversation. The park board has had a lot going on. We tried to get this earlier, but the snow said no. Yeah. We're not going to let that happen.
That's part of being in North Dakota.
Yeah, I guess.
You betcha.
You betcha. So first off, what kind of, way back in the day when you decided to run for park board, what kind of drew you into why you decided to invest your time and energy there?
Sure. That's a good question. So, it was actually, I ran and did not get elected the first time. So I ran in 2020, I would have ran, and there was 2 open spots on the board. So it alternates 2, and then 2 years later, there's 3 spots, right? So there was 2 spots open that time. And I'm trying to think back if there was 2 incumbents running.
I see.
And then there was at least two more of us, maybe even 3 more of us.
So it was a pretty crowded race.
Yeah, it was. And I didn't get elected then. And then, I was disappointed. And then, so I ran again in 2022 and got elected. And back in 2020, when I chose to run, I was more really looking for, I guess in my mind, I was looking for something to get more involved in the community. Yep. And whether that be getting on, a Rotary Club or Lions Club and the park board kind of came to the surface as I actually worked in the Parks and Rec field that's what I went to school for. Went to college. I graduated from UND with a Parks and Rec management degree. I grew up in Williston. I went back to Williston. I had to do an internship as part of my degree. So I was lucky enough to do that in Williston. And then while I was doing that, a position opened up and I got hired on and I was on the recreation side of things is what I was doing, youth and adult recreation. And so that I've always kind of had a little interest on that aspect. So the park board kind of fit kind of into my, some of my, my likes and my interests and things like that. So it worked out really well. And I guess I was, my kind of goal or any of my initiatives were just to get more involved in the community. Like I didn't have an initiative to go get on the park board to make a big change or
sure,
do anything. I want to get involved and be part of the process and hopefully be able to be, somewhat of a, make some kind of a positive change for the community.
For sure. That's one thing that's incredible about Minot is the or not just Minot, North Dakota, is the accessibility to these things. People they complain and they should, that's fine. I'm not complaining about people complaining, but it's so easy to get involved. Sure. It just takes throwing your hat in the ring and whatever. You don't have to have this be a lifelong politician like maybe in some other places.
Exactly. And in a place like Minot and North Dakota, it's not easy, but it's a little easier to get elected to those spots. You have the ability to step in and you can take over roles that, like at the park board, people don't realize what all you guys do.
Sure.
There's a lot more to it.
It was really eye-opening to me too of just what it all entails, right?
Yeah.
It was. And when I got elected in my, when the first meeting, when I actually took over for Chuck Emery.
Sure.
Chuck Emery had been on the board for a lot of years, and something that he kind of, he gave us kind of a parting, speech of, thanking everybody, and then he kind of, I feel like he gave the message to me. I mean, that's what, as I was sitting in the audience waiting to take the seat, he made a comment that the park district is not just about one facility. It's not just about Roosevelt Park, the park or the zoo. It's it's not about Mesa Arena. It's not about the Corbett Field or the auditorium. It's about everything, and that really resonated with me. And I think about that a lot when we're doing any kind of business or we're discussing anything. That always sticks in my head of it's about everything. And there's there's so many facets to the park district of whether it's outdoor trails, whether it's the golf course, the outdoor pool, the zoo. All the different auditorium, Mesa Arena. There's this, Cameron indoor courts up there, and it's really interesting that aspect. But that always resonates with me, is to think of it that way. Of it's
That's good.
There's everything there. So
I can imagine it could be easy to get fixated on a pet project in a situation like that, when in reality you do have the entirety of the big picture to look at of all of Minot.
Yep.
Like you could. We'll get into this probably a little bit more later, but like last summer, you guys had the sales tax initiative, so you could get that the indoor facility built. Like someone could really fixate on something like that, and you could leave out some of those other aspects. But to have that whole picture in mind, I think that's a really important thing.
Yeah.
Try it.
What's your as you've been in there and as you've seen the different things, what's maybe one of the most fun or your favorite part, whether it's the park trails, whether it's the golf course, whether it's the indoor tennis center that we're right next to? What's your favorite facility part? It's like choosing kids, right? Your favorite kid right there.
You might be getting some trouble if I answer that.
Yep.
But I think I guess honestly, I'd say the zoo has been probably one of the most interesting facilities, and just all the different facets that go on there. If you go to attend the zoo, if you're just going to the zoo to walk through it, you don't see the behind the scenes things and how hard the zookeepers work and the whole staff at the zoo, how they take animal care into consideration. And we've been pretty lucky the last few years with having, some tiger cubs, and
you guys just had a new giraffe too.
And so those things it's kind of neat to see how exciting the community gets when those things happen. And it's cool to see. It's something that, you start looking around other communities, and to try to find a zoo like that in the upper Midwest, it's pretty hard to do. I mean, I don't know, you probably have to go to Minneapolis and Denver, to see something like that. And I actually was down in, it had been 2 New Years ago. I was in Denver, and me and my wife went to the zoo, and I was texting one of the zookeepers, and actually I think I think it was a lion. I think one of the lions there came from Minot.
Oh, that's awesome.
Now in the Denver Zoo, I think it was a lion. I could be wrong there, but so it's neat to see that. And and with the flood and everything going through the zoo, the flood control, that zoo is obviously going to transform quite a bit. And I know you guys mentioned you want to talk about that more here as well too. But so the exhibits are changing, and there's
it's pretty fluid right now with how everything's going.
Yeah, it is. And the improvements that are going to happen, and the kind of the long-term vision of the zoo it's pretty neat to see that over the next 5, 10, 15 years what that's going to transform into, and be even more of a it's really a destination place. We're the park district's looking at, Ellie and her team are looking at some software that can track visitors and things. Like Visit Minot has it, and they use it a lot. And it's I actually through my current employment, we actually looked at something like that to as far as doing Google's SEO stuff and all that. And I just asked the guy, he's like, to use Roosevelt Zoo as an example, right? And so he could draw a border around it, and then he could drill into where the people are from that visited it, where do they go after they visit, and like the number one place they visit after they go to the zoo is McDonald's.
That makes sense.
It's perfect. Yeah,
but it's really interesting to see, and so it's also an economic, it has an economic impact.
Yeah,
people
it's
coming to Minot for something to do, right? And so it's kind of and that brings up a whole other topic when you start thinking about property tax and all those sort of things of. Really, okay, I live in the city of Minot, and I'm paying property tax, and I'm paying a portion of that to the park district. But somebody from wherever is coming here and benefiting from that. So in a way, I'm kind of subsidizing their experience.
Everyone's enjoyment, yeah.
But that's important though. That's a big part of it. But you start thinking about those sort of things, and it's like, okay, so how is that? Is that fair? Is that not fair? But it's also, that's part of the property tax that you're paying is you're subsidizing that for someone else to enjoy. And obviously that's where you kind of have that mindset of the park district is everything, right? You think about, who comes in and golfs at the golf course.
Exactly.
Are they coming from, and like mine, it's kind of unique. It's not really unique, but there's so many outlying communities, right? You have Burlington and Des Lacs and Sawyer and Surrey and even Max and all those
up to the base. Yeah.
Yep. All those outs that aren't paying property tax, but they're coming using these facilities, and really the residents of Minot are subsidizing that to a certain aspect.
So do you feel like out of all the taxing authorities that going to a model where sales tax is part of the what's paying for maintenance, paying for those different things, is maybe it's the fairest place for that concept to be used?
Well, I think kind of alluding to the sales tax ordinance that the Park District brought forward. I think our part of the thought process there is, and I can speak for myself. I'm not going to say I'm speaking for the whole board.
For sure, yeah.
We were looking at ways to generate more revenue, to be able to look at long-term planning more and be able to fund those projects without putting that burden on the property taxpayers. So sales tax kind of fits into that. Of you look at all the facilities we have, then who's using those facilities, and the sales tax was kind of like it makes sense, right? Because and that's the model that Williston's at now. Williston's actually 100% funded off of sales tax.
Gotcha.
Their park district.
I see.
And they've been doing that for ever since they built their rec center there.
Right.
Okay.
That's how they funded that, and then it just got renewed here. They had another. It must have been within the last year. I'm thinking that ordinance was up for a re-election, and it got passed again. So, and in talking with talking with the Williston staff, they are almost now like they feel like they're in charge of their own kind of destiny, right?
Sure.
They put on a basketball tournament and they bring in however many people and everything, and then like their conversation when that's over with is like, what can we do to make that bigger next year?
Yeah.
Right, yep.
What can we do to bring more people to the community? And obviously they're seeing the impact of, if we bring in 5 more teams, they're going to stay in hotels, they're going to eat, they're going to spend that sales tax, right? So there's that thought process is kind of where, that's how we kind of got to that aspect was trying to not have an impact on property tax. I mean, I think as a board, I think we're really very conscious on trying to lower that impact as much as we can, or at least plateau that impact as best we can. And government costs money. I mean,
right.
It's there's, you can argue about it all day long, right? But it costs money to maintain the golf course. It costs money to maintain the trails.
Especially when people go ride 4-wheelers over it.
And snowmobiles,
And snowmobiles, that's snowmobiles. That's incredible. Williston Area Rec Center opened in 2014, so I'm sure they probably had a 10-year
Somewhere
deal
in that
on it.
last
So
decade,
around
that makes
2024.
sense. It's probably 10 years.
For sure. We have a question from one of the comments.
Right.
This one's a tough one.
Uh-oh.
Question for Justin. Something that K-Hits 106.9 gets asked on the radio. What would cause the ice rinks not to be open? Too warm of weather, obviously, but anything else? And what effort does it take to keep the rinks open?
Sure. I'm assuming they're talking about the outdoor rinks.
Yes.
Yeah. So weather does play a big impact on that. And this year has been very tough with, it's not so much the temperature, it's the sunlight. If it gets up into the 30s and it's a sunny day, it just wreaks havoc on those. So, and I know that the initiative is to try to keep those open as long as we can and as much as we can. And I know that I just met with Ellie this week, and that conversation came up, and I think it was, in years past, New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, those rinks were closed.
Gotcha.
Well, this year they were open on New Year's Eve.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So it's also a staffing issue too, right? We have to find staff to have the warming houses open and those sort of things. So, and it's kind of I don't know if I should say this or not, but if it's, if the warming house is not open, that doesn't necessarily mean the rinks are closed.
Gotcha.
I mean, we say
That's
the rinks
good.
are closed.
Yep.
Right. So, but we're not policing it. We're okay.
That's good.
You can't be on the rink, whatever. And there's, we're also looking at so we have one at Polaris Park, there's one at Perkett, and then there's one over at Roosevelt.
Right.
And Polaris is probably the best condition
Okay.
one that we have out of the 3. And, we're looking at potentially, making that, improving that to the point where, we have an extra ice resurfacer at Mesa. Could we build a garage up there to store that? And then we could have that actually could be to make those conditions even better of, do we go, resurface the ice once a day, twice a day, whichever, and then even get to the point of start looking at, having maybe some outdoor events there.
That'd be fun.
Could the hockey boosters or Minot Public Schools have a game there?
That would be awesome.
So in West Fargo, they have the Lights facility that has an outdoor rink there. And they I think it was just right before New Year's, They have like I don't know what they call it, Winterfest or something. And I know Minot High, the boys played down there.
Oh wow,
That's awesome.
They have like they have like two or three full days of just games where they have youth games and high school games, and so it's it's kind of a different it kind of takes you back to the I grew up playing hockey in Williston, and when I started playing, all we had was an outdoor rink.
Okay,
that was that was the only option.
So I was probably 11, 12 years old, and they built an indoor facility there. So it's kind of neat to go play outdoors, and it's it's like the NHL has the
the winter class.
Florida this year, right?
Yeah. Then they have a few other games throughout the year too, right? So but yeah, that's, I guess, with that we try to keep them open as long as we can, and it's also we used to have years ago they used to have like a date, like February 15th they're done, and now it's really weather dependent. If the weather's good, we're gonna try to do everything we can to keep them open as long as we can.
That's awesome.
They get used a lot. Players gets used a lot.
I believe that.
There's a lot of kids up there that and it gives them something. It gives those kids something to do, right?
That's a good thing.
Perfect.
Every once in a while we go to the leisure rink at Polaris, and it's always busy.
Yeah,
it's always busy.
My brother lives within a block of there, and always busy. Plus, it's got the Frisbee golf course in the summer.
Yep, the park. Yep.
So people are more aware of it.
Exactly. While we're still on the rinks, though, is there a flip side on the weather question? Does it get too cold, or does it get too? I mean, blizzardy probably doesn't matter. People aren't going out, but is there a weather mark of too cold?
There is, and I don't know what that is as far as.
That's fair.
I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I always kind of had, that was always I was like, okay, it doesn't make sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
It gets too cold, so they close the warming house.
Right, yeah.
You think they'd want to keep the warming house, but it does get to the point where we have to,
it's a safety thing.
It's safety liability of, we can't, so, and I don't, like I said, I don't know what that threshold is, but yeah, it's kind of both sides of the spectrum are there, right? So
for sure.
And I know the maintenance crew had a tough time getting the rinks going this year just with the weather. The ground's got to freeze first, and then they start flooding them, and then when you get those 30, 40 degree, and then the big thing was the rains we had.
Sure, the rains messes everything up.
Just it didn't wreak some havoc on them. So
kind of like last night. Where's this rain coming from?
Yeah,
it must be snow at this time.
It's rain in December and January now.
That's
year, right?
incredible. Yeah, you just know it's going to get us one of these months.
I was expecting it to be all icy this morning, so I took the long way up here. I took Burdick to Broadway, and it wasn't that bad. It was fine.
All right, so going back to kind of where we were at though on some of the property tax stuff and all that. Mm-hmm. Do you see, obviously, well, let's jump into the initiative that we talked about, because this is kind of a step in that direction, potentially. There was the initiative where you guys had a proposal that would create a half-cent sales tax that would lower property tax, put a cap on you guys, a self-imposed cap, and so kind of change your guys' funding sources a little bit and potentially put you down on a path where maybe you'd work to get rid of property tax altogether from the park district's standpoint. Is that failed in a very close vote?
Like 24 or 25 votes? Yeah.
Just a few votes in a special election last summer. It was a year of elections. Is that something that you guys see maybe being reworked? I'm not saying it's going to come back this year, but is that an idea that's dead, or do you still see a path where you guys look to get fully on sales tax? I
don't know about I don't know about fully.
Yeah, that
being
might
on
be too strong.
Or at least a hybrid.
It is a discussion point still, and the discussion point really came from it was kind of the frustrating part was the voter turnout at that time. And literally the next day, I literally got phone calls from people that are involved in user groups that we deal with that were telling me, we need to do it again. We can get more people out to vote. We can get more people out to vote. So it's, a lot of our user groups have been giving us, pushing at us to to give it another whirl. And so those are discussion points that probably more information is probably going to be coming out here in the near future and those sort of things. But so we'll see. I guess it's,
So to follow on that, because that happens and then Measure 4 is hanging around and it went away before that vote, but that was something that had been talked about. But then the legislature takes action and they have property tax relief that comes out. But part of that is a state imposed cap that then goes on every taxing authority. So that would include the park board. And so now you guys get to deal with that. as you guys go through budget process, how difficult has it been for you guys? It's completed now, but how difficult was it for you guys to navigate that cap? And does that make extra incentive for a sales tax option?
Yeah. So, right now the park district we do have a mill levy cap on our general fund. I don't hold me to the fire on this. I think it's 38 mills. And we're between 3 and 4 mills below that. But with there was a 3% increase cap on our mill levies. And I think we came in, like I said, don't quote me on this again, but I think we came in under 1% increase.
Gotcha. Very low.
So we had some cushion there.
Yep.
And there's some different, opinions and different thoughts on how to handle that. And I don't know if, I can't speak for other entities, but I think some entities might have said, okay, we can only do 3, so let's do 3.
Right.
Yep.
And I guess my opinion is we create a budget for our needs, and that's our budget. And if we're over that, we got to
Work from there.
work down. And if we're below that,
Great.
Fantastic.
right? So, but I can see the mindset of like, okay, well, let's just do 3%. And, and we're starting to look, I shouldn't say starting, but we look at our reserves as well too. And we putting a goal on what we want our reserves to be. And, and there's guidance on that too, of like, and I can't remember what our statutory, what our max is, but we're below that. And we're looking at, using, giving ourselves a goal of what our reserves need to be, and then staying within that. And I think next year, hopefully when we do the 2027 budget, we'll have some better understanding of what that reserve is going to be and be able to budget some of that reserve into our budget. Like this year, we did not do that, but we have some money we're going to spend down on some projects to get those done. And I think after that sales tax ordinance failed, there was some messages being put out that we're really going to be in maintenance mode. And what that means is we have some of the buildings need new roofs on them, like the golf course, the clubhouse at the golf course, that roof needs to be replaced.
Sure.
There's parking lots that need to be replaced. The auditorium roof is getting to the end of its useful life, and so those projects need to be done. And the kind of the downside of those projects are they're not the nice fluffy with the ribbon on it. It's like we got a new roof. I mean, no one's out doing a ribbon cutting on a new roof at the Starr Valley Golf Course, but
it's a necessary thing.
But we do have some exciting things going on. Like the one big thing that we got some funding on, and I think there'll be a press release coming out on some donations, and we got some grant funds too for
fantastic
to replace the playground at South Hills, the Shields complex.
Oh, that's awesome!
And it's going to be a poured in place one, so it'll be accessible, and it's going to be a nice upgrade to that park in that area of town. You think about that area of town, you have there's our Redeemer School right there. There's Washington School right there. So that park gets used a lot.
Right.
Just during the school year is kind of their the kids have a playground to go to, and then the softball. Adult softball leagues, and then the youth fast pitch softball is just it's growing and growing, and they're getting to be a very active group and a big group, and it's they have a tournament themselves every year, and then there's a state tournament that rotates around, and it's those 2 fields are turf, so long term looking at, okay, do we need to turf another one of those fields out there just to make them, the amount of play that happens because of that is just extraordinary. Even in Corbett Field, having that turf, the amount of play that field gets now, that if that wasn't there, that would not, you have the Hot Tots, and you have the Honeybees, you have the Vistas, you got Minot State.
Just allows so much more time in the year to be able to play.
Bet. Like I went to a Hot Tots game 2 years ago, and a rainstorm came through and dumped, felt like 2-3 inches of rain in about a matter of half hour. And, a 45-minute delay, and they're playing baseball again, where that turf wasn't there, that game would have been over with, and probably the next day. There probably not anything the next day either, too. Right. So, and there's something, like we have Hoven Fields over by the golf course there.
Sure.
And those are all grass fields, and they're beautiful, and kids love them. And I know that people around the state love them because it's got a infield grass, and so there's that aspect too of playing baseball on a grass field. But you get one of those events like could we turf one of those fields and be able to just add that much play to it, or add an additional field out there. There's space out there to develop that park into more, have, a playground, have more, shelters, all those sort of things.
Could take it a little bit further than where it's at right now. There's
probably one of the most underrated moves by the park district. Didn't get a lot of attention, but I think there's a lot of people thankful for this. Probably deserved a ribbon cutting. Was the bathroom that was placed on the front 9 at Cirrus. Come back, it's like hole 4 or 5 or whatever.
Yep.
There's a bathroom there. That was superb.
And then last summer, they added another one on the back 9.
On the back 9.
Yeah, kind of like 10 and 11, 12
Gotcha.
kind of up in there.
Yeah,
so,
those are big moves right there.
Yeah, and that's kind of the hats off to Minot Junior Golf.
Okay.
They, I don't know the dollar figures, but they funded those, a lot. I mean, if not fully funded, it was pretty darn close to it. So, so Minot Junior Golf's been a very good partner of the park district and the community. Like the pickleball courts at Roosevelt or at Roosevelt Park. We converted those tennis courts into pickleball courts, and we had a pickleball group approach us about doing that, and we had some money budgeted for resurfacing some tennis courts, and we decided to take that money and we'll put that towards that. But you guys need to come up with the rest of it. And the next day, it was
they had it.
Wow, we got the money. Minot Junior Golf gave us the money. So
that's great.
And that was over $100,000.
Incredible
to take that for. And that's that's kind of been one of our with all the construction going on in Roosevelt Park. It was. I mean, there is a group of people that played pickleball that they have a ladies like. Whatever morning is ladies' morning, and then they have a men's morning. Yeah, they're there. I mean, and now the next request is like, can we get lights there, right? Because
they're ready to go at night. Yeah,
yeah. So that group is really growing, and it's neat to see because I'm drawing a blank on the name of the park. It's kind of the hidden park. It's kind of southwest of the campus.
Yep. It's
Riverside.
Yeah,
Park.
you have to go into the alleyway to get there.
Like if you don't know about it, you don't know about it, right? But there's I think 3 pickleball courts there, and then we resurfaced the basketball court there. And that's been done for a while. That's been
a couple years.
Oh, more than that. 5, 6 years probably. I want to say, but we were getting calls. The park district was getting calls on people like, we want to go play, but there's so many people there, and it's kind of like I kind of relate it to like going to the bar to play pool.
Sure.
Like you got to take your paddle and like put your paddle up and be like
I'm next. Yeah,
I'm next. And that's that's intimidating for people, right? They just want to go to the park and play pickleball, but the pickleball group's been really good at bringing people in and teaching them the game and getting them involved. And now at Cameron, that's been a big push there too. That's really been helping the attendance there is the pickleball groups. And then we got to keep the tennis groups, and we got to keep tennis. It's a balancing act, right, to make sure the tennis is still getting their needs met and pickleball is getting their needs met.
Because that was something when they, I think at Roosevelt, when it got switched to pickleball, there was some comments that we heard. People were like, well, this fad, why are we doing this for this fad? Tennis has always been there, whatever. But you're saying that even at the Cameron Indoor, that pickleball has helped increase numbers because I'm sure that's a pretty busy facility.
It is, yeah. And, we do take, when Roosevelt when that started happening, the first thing we did was got in contact with like Scott DeLorme with Minot High.
Gotcha.
And we wanted to make sure that their program didn't suffer at all.
Yep.
And, and his comment, I think, I don't want to quote him on this, but I think it kind of came down to as long as Cameron's available, they should be good. Because you go to Hammond Park, and that's a beautiful tennis facility.
Great, yep.
My daughter got into playing tennis when she was a freshman in high school, so I kind of got exposed to that a little bit. And going around the state, I mean, Hammond Park is by probably, if not the nicest, one of the nicest outdoor tennis facilities in the state. It's it's in a residential area. It's covered with trees. It's protected. At Legacy High School in Bismarck built one, and it's on a hill.
There's lots of wind.
Yeah, if it's a windy day, you're sitting. I can't imagine playing tennis in that. Let alone, I don't want to sit there and watch it.
Exactly. Right.
So
I remember how far Hammond's come to because we kind of grew up in that area when I was a kid, and it was a really fun park. Bunch of basketball courts there back in the day.
Yep.
They maybe weren't the most, the fanciest basketball courts, but they were fun. But then the revamp happened with the expansion of the tennis courts, and it is a beautiful facility now.
Yeah, and you look at the tennis programs, and now Minot North's got they got a girls and boys program, so it's I was really impressed. Like when my daughter played, I was impressed at the program and how she advanced so much in her tennis, playing. And
shout out Minot High. They won state tennis last year.
Yeah, no, you bet. So my biggest thing, my daughter would never you never really know exactly when you're going to play, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like
it's
starting this time, and it kind of depends on how the matches
brutal.
go. And and I work at IMM, so I'm just 2 blocks away from Hammond.
yeah.
Right? So I tell my daughter, like, text me when the match before you start. Well, she would never do that because she didn't want me. She's like, I don't want you to come watch. I get nervous. And like, come on,
I'm right here.
Yeah, so
that's
but
funny.
yeah, though, it's
Set the camera.
so that's like that. That's a great facility as well too. But that's going back to that Roosevelt pickleball courts. And we got Scott Delorme involved right away. And it's kind of like, okay, we don't want to do something that's going to cause another issue here and there. So that's it's worked out so far. So
that's good.
So good. And so we're mindful of that, especially at Cameron, because it's not, there's only so much space there, right? So to make sure that the tennis and pickleball are both getting them going, and that pickleball is going to be it's
fad or not. It's crazy how much it's taken off in the last couple of years.
And Fargo built a new sports center, and it has I don't know how many basketball courts, and it has an indoor turf facility, and it's got two ice rinks in it, and then they have a pickleball area, indoor pickleball, and there's at least 6 courts in there.
Wow.
And I was there during the week, like at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and there was
busy.
like 12, 14 people in there playing pickleball. So it's
I mean, it started in 1965. Pickleball did. So I
it's
don't.
not
I
new.
don't think it's a fad. And I've heard of generations before me that they played it in the downstairs of their high school or whatever. It's been around.
But it's crazy how popular it's gotten in the last couple of years as a revitalization.
One of the pluses because it came around the time of COVID. So it was one of the positive things that came out of COVID.
Oh, there you go.
So
getting people outside. Yeah.
exactly.
Yes.
For sure. That and everyone's golf scores they got better during COVID,
They're
right?
playing the golf sims.
Well,
Funny how that works.
But they didn't want to touch the flag and all that, so
Of course,
the Gibney's got a little bit wider range.
Got a little bit more of a breath on that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I think they put a noodle in there, so you couldn't actually make it.
Right? Yeah. You just had to hit it,
Hit the noodle.
power it through, and you're good to go.
Close enough, right?
Yep. So we're gonna go to a quick break. Miranda Schuler says, "I love the walking paths just west of Minot. This has been a great improvement for our area. So, a lot of love coming in. We'll go to a quick break, and we'll be back in a minute."
In the demanding world of oil and gas, precision, safety, and efficiency are non-negotiable. Unmanned operator drone services revolutionizes how you monitor, inspect, and manage your operations. With cutting-edge technology and expert operators, we deliver real-time data, detailed reports, and actionable insights for our valuable clients. Why risk the safety of your team or waste precious time? Our drones access even the most challenging areas with ease, reducing downtime and enhancing safety across your sites. We take the guesswork out of your projects by offering LiDAR, mapping, and inspection services so that your projects stay safe, on budget, and on time. Unmanned operator drone services, where technology meets safety, precision, and efficiency. Contact us today to elevate your operations. Yes, pun intended.
Enjoy Minot's finest authentic Mexican cuisine with a view at Mi Mexico. The rooftop patio is open and ready for you to enjoy a margarita or other cool refreshment along with genuine mouth-watering Mexican entrees. Mi Mexico, South Broadway.
All right, we're back here with Justin Hammer.
Round 2.
Park Board. Yeah, round 2. Yeah. All right.
We were talking about pickleball and Roosevelt Park, and obviously the pickleball, we very popular up and coming thing here in Minot. I guess you can debate on the up and coming status of it or not, Jonathan. But
yeah, it's been around.
Roosevelt Park has gone under a lot of changes over the last couple of years. What's kind of the future of that going forward this year? Yeah,
well, so this year. This past summer is when flood control was really going to vamp up in that whole area, and there's 2 phases to flood control that kind of are affecting Roosevelt Park Zoo. I think I could get these wrong. MI7, MI8,
Gotcha.
Could be MI9, MI8, whichever. But so one of them runs from like Burdick on the east side of the zoo all the way through the park and almost to not quite to the entrance, a little bit farther into the entrance of the park. And then that other phase takes from there and kind of goes all the way to past Atypical and
Sure. Down
almost
connects downtown.
Yeah, kind of that way. So both of those are going on concurrently. And, the plan going into the summer was to keep the pool open. And, I can't remember the time frame. It must have been April, maybe early May. We actually had a meeting down there with, with Ryan Ackerman, with the Surf Valley Joint Board, and the contractors that are all involved, and just we made the tough decision to close the pool. And it was really, as I was standing there, I couldn't imagine. I think some people probably would have taken their kid to the pool once, and I don't think they would have came back.
They would have been.
And because there was so much noise and dust, and then you take into account being a lifeguard and being there, and I don't think you could hear a whistle be blown, right? Because there was so much. And when we were there, the contractors are like, "This is about a third of what's going to be going on, and
especially come peak summer." Yeah,
this is going to keep ramping up and ramping up and ramping up. So it's going to get, it's going to be even more congested, and there was a temporary road going in, and so I don't think anybody argued with this on the board of saying we should keep it open. I mean, we looked at do we limit the number of days? Do we say, whichever? But I think, in my mind, we made the right decision by closing the pool. And it's obviously took away from a nice amenity that we have in Minot over the summer. But I think it was the right decision. And it also afforded us, we're replacing the filter system in that right now. And that needed to be done. So the timing kind of worked out pretty well. It allowed us to get started. We were planning to start that as soon as we closed the pool. Labor Day is kind of the
time frame-ish.
I mean, it's usually, we try to open it up the early June and go all the way through. Like Labor Day is usually the cutoff of, it's done with. So we were going to start that project immediately after that with the goal of having it done here coming up for this year. So, and we're on track for that right now. So the plan right now is to have the pool open next summer. And a lot of the flood construction is getting, like the flood wall, I think, is almost complete of what they're going to do, but there's backfilling, and there's they're going to stain the flood wall. And the nice thing on the kind of the interior of the flood wall, so that flood wall will kind of be the outdoor fence of the zoo. Part of
act as the barrier, kind of.
Yep. Yeah. So there's going to be some opportunities for some murals and things like that to take place there that they'll start working with the Park District staff on, and some of that stuff will be taking place next summer. And then there's also going to be a couple of exhibits, and I off the top of my head, I'm not sure exhibits. There's 2 exhibits that went out for bid, and I think they've been awarded. And that's the Surf Valley Joint Board is working really close with Park District staff on those things. But that construction will start up here, I think, as soon as the spring, as soon as the weather allows, they'll start working on some of those things. So all the North American exhibits, which were across the bridge, though that part, we're losing that part of the zoo
this year. Okay,
we lost that this year with the flood wall. At one point they looked at trying to keep having a opening in the flood wall, but it's just
not practical.
There's going to be flood control on the other side of the river there as well too. So it just kind of it wasn't it didn't work out. But that bridge is going to stay there, and that bridge will end up kind of being more of a walking path connection between both sides of the river there. So and then the construction on that, kind of call it the north lawn, is going to, part of that's going to be part of the zoo now. That North American exhibits and things will start
moving over there.
Yep.
Okay.
So that was a lot of green space there. Then that's where, there was a lot of trees that had to come down.
Yep.
And that was kind of that was a hot topic as well too. They actually ribboned all the trees that needed to come down, and we went and walked through and looked at it. And, the plus side of it is, the negative is you lost a tree that was 50, 60 years old, right?
Yeah.
But for every tree they take down, I think they were planting 2.
Okay. Wow.
So they'll be, and obviously that's going to take, a
little bit
before those trees mature and get back to what they're supposed to be. But so the park's going to transform quite a bit, but it's going to be, when it's all said and done, I think it's going to be, it'll be an improvement, and it'll be nice. And that the train will still be active there.
Oh, that's fantastic.
They're working on some of that because it's going to kind of go through part of the zoo. Kind of they had to configure it to make sure that everything was kosher with that sort of thing. So,
what about the geese? That's got to be like a constant pain in your guys' neck.
Yeah, it is. And normally I don't know the agency that we work with. It's not the Game and Fish. It's I don't know if it's, like I said, off the top of my head, but but they do And I don't know if they did one this year because it was kind of weird. The geese population at the golf course was way down.
Oh,
Okay.
It wasn't as bad as it was in years past, but they normally do
Because there's been a ton of new golfers.
yeah, but they do they do a coordinated hunt
Okay,
where
sweet.
you can they handle it, they schedule it out and everything. So and sometimes you can hear shotguns going off.
Oh, I see.
They do that to help limit the
That's good.
limit the population out there because it can turn they cause a lot of just they all over the greens
Oh, yes.
and the course and all the golf course and
Yeah.
all those sort of things. But yeah, this year I it wasn't as bad as it has been in years past. So but you get to Oak Park, there's nuisance at Oak Park too.
And Roosevelt, it seems like there's a few there as well.
Oh sure, yeah,
Yep.
I suppose, yeah.
Yep.
And back to the zoo itself too. So you're talking about how the North American part of the zoo is going to be shifting from across the river to on that north part of the zoo now. What's going to happen with that old North American side of the zoo?
Yeah, I don't know 100%, but it's going to turn into there'll be flood protection there.
Okay,
So and I
that
think
makes sense.
most of that side of the river is going to be an earth levee.
Okay,
So that takes up earth levees take up a ton of space. Right?
Yep,
So,
undoubtedly.
and and hopefully that's I don't know if that's that's more the Service Valley Joint Board is working on all those coordinating with architectural firms and engineer firms and hopefully they'll be able to they've been really good to work with. They've especially as going through the zoo and things, they've been very mindful of the impact on the zoo.
Sure.
They've been what can we do to help lessen that impact and so they've been really good to work with and they really there's a whole recreation side of things that's the flood control is going to start opening up and especially in that area. So that's going to be something that's going to need to be discussed because it's not is it park district? Some of it's going to be park district land. A lot of it's going to be city land. But there's the whole Ben's Tavern area.
Sure.
There's all that green space there, and so there's a lot of things that are I think it's going to be a nice benefit to the community when it's all said and done. As far as you think about like there was a comment about how they love the walking paths on the west side of Minot, and kind of and I don't know if they were referring to over by the dog park or if they're referring to the outdoor rec area. Kind of out just north of the Green Thumb there.
that place is fantastic.
Yep, that's if someone hasn't been out there, they need to go out there. And
Yep.
there's a concrete walking path, and then there's trails off of that too. You can mountain bike or walk, and that's something that's going to be another area that's going to keep evolving over time too. And there's goals of do we put eventually put some kind of restrooms out there like they have at the golf course.
sure.
Kind of did the same thing at the Woodlands Trail. They have there's a new. And those are just vault toilets, I believe. I don't think those have running water to them. I could be wrong there, but
Right.
Something's better than nothing. Yeah.
yeah. So that area will start. Do we put a shelter out there, or what do we do to that area to keep improving that area for amenities and things? But
awesome.
that's a neat area to go walk. Even if you walk on the concrete trails, you get up
Onto the hill there.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. It's a pretty neat area.
Yeah, that is a hidden gem in Minot for
bet.
sure. Did that open last year or the year before?
I want to say it's been 2 years.
2 years now. Okay.
Yeah, and I know that the gravel trails or off-road trails. There's been 2 rounds of that. Like when they first opened up, there was some, and then
They
must have been this
expanded.
last summer. Maybe it got expanded some more, and there's signage out there now, so it helps people know that okay, can I go down this or can I go down it, and so those sort of things. So that's there's a lot that gets a lot of use as well too out there. So
We've hammered you on all the intricacies of the park, of all the things that are going on, how you manage the geese, the whole works, right? But whether you decide to run again or whatever aside, as you go and you look at the future of the park district and some of the things that you have, and you've alluded to it at times throughout, what are some of the things that you are excited about that are maybe in the horizon? You're excited about projects that you guys are working on?
Sure. Well, definitely the zoo is one of them, just with everything going on there. And then, other than that, there's, we have, I don't know how many years ago we did a user assessment and got back some information, and that's where the indoor turf facility kind of rose to the top. So that's an area that we're still looking at of trying to figure out, what can we do, what can we do to give another amenity? Indoor play area is a huge need right now. At the auditorium, they have a fun zone with blow-ups and all those sort of things. And it's really limited on time because the auditorium is so busy. I mean, it's just, there's so much events going on there. It's unreal. But, they get, 120 to 150 kids at that, So you think of the midwinter when there's just not a lot of space to go and do things. So like indoor play area is a big area that, that indoor turf facility would have served some of that. And I think going back to the sales tax ordinance, I think, the indoor turf facility kind of took over some of the limelight of that and that was just kind of the first project that we were looking at, and there's, all of our user groups are always coming to us with more needs, the soccer association is growing by leaps and bounds and they need more space. They need more fields. And
there's a big tournament this weekend. Indoor soccer tournament in town.
And they use the dome, the bubble at the college. They use Minot State. They, so there's needs throughout the whole community. And that's so, and we've did what we've tried to do as many improvements as we can at the Optimist Park for we're regularly meeting with the soccer association just on what kind of what's going good, what's not going good. And, and they have their facility that they're working on trying to get accomplished. And that's one of their biggest needs too, is indoor space. They're renting a space down at the fairgrounds and they're limited there and, just for space. And it's so that's, I'd say the zoo is probably number one. And then just looking at the future of, trying to look at an indoor turf facility is needed. And it's just a matter of how can we accomplish it without putting too much a burden on the taxpayers.
Right.
That's fair.
That makes sense.
Getting to that will be a good time. And on the zoo as well, one other thing I wanted to mention, it's open in the winter.
Correct.
A lot of people don't realize that. It might be a little bit more limited, of course, because weather, but...
And not all the animals are on display. And
exactly.
That's where, you look at the African Plains exhibit with the giraffes. Now the giraffes are on exhibit year-round.
You guys have, there's that indoor...
so you can go, so that gives them more space and all those sort of things. So that's, those are some of those, the improving the exhibits or, doing those sort of things is also to provide year-round accessibility to those animals and seeing all those sort of things. So, yeah.
And we have the Discovery Center here on North Hill. Is there anything new coming with that? Is that pretty steady now?
Yeah,
the
Park District, we own that facility, but the Discovery Center basically leases it and they operate it. But that's, you talk about indoor facilities. That's a great place that for kids to go and those sort of things. So that's they're manning that, where we do a little bit of maintenance on like the parking lot and snow removal.
But they handle the day-to-day operations.
They have all the day-to-day operations of that. So
very good, very exciting. It's amazing to see the breadth of what the park district does. It's not just the parks and the Mesa and the zoo. There's just so much that goes beyond that. The walking paths. The sports complex is just so much that they get covered. So it's incredible.
Yeah, the park district staff they're amazing. Because it's just like, it's almost like they don't really have a downtime.
Right. Yeah, it's always going.
It's rolling from one thing to the next, and they just the auditorium, the amount of events at the auditorium is just crazy between weddings and birthdays and the PBR and there's basketball tournaments and just all those sort of things. That facility is just, it's crazy how much that facility gets used and so but the staff does, it's crazy. It's amazing to see how committed the staff are and how they're so committed to, they're all, wherever they're assigned to, the Surf Valley Golf Course, that crew takes such good pride in the course and making it as playable as they can. And that, the play out there is just crazy how much every year it just gets busier and busier and busier.
We went to an online booking system, and that was cool, but that's a bummer because it is always booked. It's hard to get a time.
Before you can sneak on pretty easy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now it is locked up.
Sure.
What is one like underrated or lesser known feature or program from the park board or park district that you think someone should check out this year?
Yeah, boy. We talked about that outdoor rec area. That is definitely something that is a hidden gem. And there's the zoo definitely. If I would assume that everybody probably is aware of the zoo, but I don't know how many times people go and partake, at the zoo. So that's something that this last summer was a tough summer for attendance, just with everything going on. Part of the zoo, not all exhibits were available and things, but that'll come back around, and hopefully the zoo comes back. It'll be, I know it will be even bigger and stronger than it is right now. So, another area that's it's in the horizon too is the area out by Mesa Arena, and we call it the Superfund site.
Sure.
So it's the old landfill area.
Yep.
So it's been I don't know how many years. That was started before I was even involved in the park board, but it's the EPA's involved and all those sort of things. But that's going to be a frisbee golf course.
Oh, exciting!
Be going in there, and there'll be a cross country course going in there for running and for mountain biking. And we worked with Minot High and Minot State to help design that cross country course, because right now last year Minot State actually held an event at Sears Valley Golf Course,
right?
And and Minot High usually does every year too. So that closes the course down for almost an entire day.
Okay.
So now once that facility is done over by Mesa, they'll be able to start having events there.
Wow, that's awesome.
So that'll help. One thing, it'll open up the golf course, but then two, it gives them a dedicated.
Yep.
They can practice there. They can do all those sort of things. Then it'll open up some mountain bike paths there too, and all those sort of things. So that's kind of exciting too. And it just seems like every time we're getting close and we think it's going to happen, like there's another step we got to go through. And it's a slow process, right? When you start dealing with EPA and all these other agencies, it slows down. But that's another area that's, that has a lot of opportunity as well too.
Yeah. Mr. Zeldin or whatever was in North Dakota last year, right? So maybe he should have.
That's true.
With the EPA, got it all figured out.
Swung up to Minot. It's not that far from Bismarck.
Rubber stamp. Yeah, Lee Zeldin. Well, thank you for coming on today. It's been a great conversation. It's been good learning about the Minot Parks more.
Sure, I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Any plans for the summer?
Go golfing
as far as myself.
Well,
he wants to know if you're going to run.
Okay, all right, yeah. I guess
Jonathan's
before we came on, we were discussing a little bit too, and I think I'm leaning towards running again. I mean, like I said, I haven't.
You're pretty invested in this.
Yeah, I haven't really put much thought into it until literally this week, when all of a sudden people are talking about
announcements are coming
out, and I'm like, oh yeah, I have to run again. And when I ran the first two times, the first time and the second time, going out and getting the signatures, it doesn't seem like it's not a lot of work. But a lot of times people want to talk to you then.
Yeah.
They just want to sign your petition. They want to
know what you're about.
What do you, you're not asking them for your vote that time. You're just asking to get enough signatures to get on the ballot. But the people want to talk to you, and they want to know what's, and there's a lot of opinions out there, which is good, right? But it's not as just as easy as going out and getting all their signatures. It takes some time, because people want to, before they they want to talk to you. They want to know what you're about and what's they want to learn more about it. So it's kind of it's a little nerve-wracking sometimes, because it
gets to be a lot.
It does, yeah. So, but it's also fun. I mean, you learn a lot about what people's thoughts are, and what their interests are, and what kind of where their concerns are at, right? So,
I love it.
Very cool.
Well, thank you, Justin.
Yeah. That made Kyler's day right there. We're going to be back Tuesday, and we're going to talk about other people that have announced that they're running, such as in District 3.
Yeah.
Announcement from Tim Mihalik and Blaine Deloriers that they are running for the House of Representatives in District 3. We'll talk maybe a little bit of a lawmaker and what's that?
I was going to say there's a whole joint meeting between Minot City Council and Lower County Commission that we'll talk about on Tuesday for sure. And
talk about a legislator in Bismarck area that's working on a free school meal bill ahead of North Dakota's special session. So maybe trying to get that pushed through in a special session. So interesting stuff. It doesn't stop in North Dakota. We'll be back Tuesday, 9 a.m. to talk more about it. Thank you for watching this episode. Be sure to like and subscribe. And again, thank you, Justin, for coming on today.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time.